Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Easy Peasy Books podcast. So, today is another solo episode, and I'm going to wrap up this whole thing I've been talking about podcasting, being a podcast guest. So, in previous episodes, I talked about how to get on podcast. Then the next episode, I talked about, okay, once you're on the podcast, how to be a good podcast guest. So this third and final segment is going to be about, ta-da, what to do after the show is over. Because even when you say goodbye, it ain't over till, what is it? The fat lady sings, it ain't over until you keep it's never over, actually. Just keep on going. But anyways, I'm going to walk you through some of the things that I recommend you do once the show is over. So, number one, thank the podcast host. Don't be a stranger. Send them a DM, send them a thank you note, tell them that you had a great experience, and just, be kind, be kind. Let them know, please let me know when the show goes live. And then that way I can help support it. And we're going to talk about what that means in a second, but definitely thank them for their time. Thank them for choosing you to be on their podcast. And then kind of go a step further. Always kind of think outside the box. What can you do to, help them? So I like to make sure I have left a podcast review. So that's something that you can go and give them a little bit of love. If they're on Apple, Apple is where you give those podcast reviews. Because somebody asked me the other day, where do I actually review them? Apple is where you go and put those podcast reviews. So review the podcast. That's number one. But also, too, what can you do for the podcast host in terms of review? If they're on LinkedIn, go give them a LinkedIn recommendation, and you can talk about how the whole process was being their guest, all the different things that they've done to make this a good experience for you. So a LinkedIn recommendation is good. If they're not on LinkedIn, see if they have maybe Google. You could do a Google review, something like that. But I love to give those LinkedIn recommendations because that just makes people feel so good. So that is number one. Be grateful and share some love. Be kind to your podcast host. So then this next one's really, really important. Put your marketing hat on and be a co-marketer with your podcast host. You are not the star. You are not the prima donna that you just kind of sit back and let all the accolades roll in. You think about that podcast host and what it took to schedule your appearance and then record it. And then they've got to edit it. And then they got to get it uploaded to all the different places. They've done a lot of work, and they probably will go on social media and they will share it. And so if it's on YouTube, go and leave a comment. If it's on a platform like LinkedIn, it's make sure that as soon as that goes live, that you like it and leave a comment. And then think of it as being part of the team. It's like other people start commenting on it. Comment on their comments. It's not just the host. It's you and the host working together to give as much visibility to that podcast appearance as possible. So you want to make sure that you respond to all the other comments as well. And when the comments kind of with LinkedIn, because that's what I know best is LinkedIn, once those comments start getting some traction, then go and repost it. Now, I tell people don't share it, because if you share it to your profile on LinkedIn, all those comments get left behind. Now, I know some people just like to share and that's their thing, but I like to repost it because then that way it's on the profile of the host, it's on my profile, and now the two of us are working together to keep all those comments going. So that's what I highly recommend is reposting it. But definitely make sure you have commented and liked it. I had somebody not too long ago that merely shared it and never even responded to my original post. And I had to have that feeling that people were kind of going, they must have not liked being on your show, Gillian, because they had nothing to say. And it it hurt my feelings. It hurt my feelings. But what are you going to do? Some people are going to do what they're going to do. But I see it as not only are you dissing the host, this is a missed marketing opportunity. So we should always have those marketing hats on and say, this is a win-win. This host gave me their audience. I will now give them my audience back. It's a win-win. Everybody sees it. And I always see 1 + 1 = 3. It lifts everybody up. So definitely want to do that with the host. Okay. So then once you've been this gracious host and you had a gracious guest and you've thanked your host, maybe you've given them a great recommendation, you've been sharing, posting and commenting and all that stuff to help market the podcast appearance. So then the next thing that you should do is ask the host for the podcast assets. Now, this is really, really important because most of the time with the podcast, there's going to be an MP4, which is the video file. There's also going to be an MP3, which is the audio file. Ask for both. And just think that you will now have access to a content gold mine. You can do so much. And I'm going to tell you what you can do with it. But here's the thing. So many people say, well, shouldn't the host just naturally send me stuff? Like, why do I have to ask? Won't they just send me stuff? Well, I'm going to tell you, when I put my podcast host hat back on, I don't send everybody stuff. I don't send it because I have had so many people do nothing with it. And I've had people where I've gone to the trouble of getting, the MP3, the MP4, I send it on WeTransfer, it's sent to them, and they just let the transfer expire. And I'm like, why am I wasting my time with these people? This took me so much time. I had to download it and then I had to re-upload it. And then I had to get their email and do all this stuff. And they just let it expire. Like that just kind of like, that to me is being rude. So I don't automatically send stuff. But if my guests say, hey, Gillian, is it possible for me to get a copy of the assets from our show, the MP3 file and the MP4 file? I say, absolutely. And I send it to them. So that is the difference. Do not expect that your host is going to go and do this for you automatically. And I don't make clips for people, but I know a lot of podcast hosts that do make clips for people, and they send those clips to their guests. And then the guests just let them sit and die on the vine. So if anybody ever sends you clips, go do something with them. Put them on your, uploaded them natively to LinkedIn or to YouTube as a short or something like that. So, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, folks. Always make sure you're responding, downloading, thank them for it, et cetera, et cetera. So let's just say that you have gone and you've asked for the files and the host, they got around, and sometimes, I have to be honest, sometimes hosts are just really busy. So if they don't respond and they say, oh yeah, sure, I'll send you the files, and they forget, give them some grace, wait a week and go back to them and say, hey, just checking. I know you're probably really busy, but I'd still really love those files. They'll probably go, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. And they'll send them to you. So just know that sometimes hosts get busy and they're juggling multiple things. Plus also too, this is something that I do. I do not send files until after the show has dropped. So I would have a guest. I do all of my podcasts. They're recorded now. And I will tell my guests, okay, we've done the interview today, but this is not going to go live until, 3 weeks from now or 2 weeks from now or 5 weeks from now, whatever. And then I tell them, once it's gone live, once it's been published, I'm happy to share the assets with you. Just remind me. And so that's what I do. And the reason why I do this is I don't want people to jump the gun. I don't want people to take those assets and start willy-nilly sending out clips everywhere when my show's not even dropped. So it's my show. So it's going to go at my time frame. So just wanted to let you know, a lot of us are like that. We're just not going to share until after we've used the assets as much as we need to use them for. So we come first, sorry. So that's important to know. But once you get those assets, and you thank the host, and now you've got your MP3 and your MP4, and you're just like, okay, what do I do with all this stuff? What do I do with it? So a couple different things. So first of all, transcribe the audio at least, but you can also transcribe the video, but transcribe the audio. And one tool I highly recommend is something called Happy Scribe. Happy Scribe. It's just like HAPPY Scribe, SCRIBE, Happy Scribe. And what I like about them is you can upload your file and create a free account, upload your file. And I believe you get one free transcription. So if you've been there before, I don't think you get it free, but it might have changed. It's hard to tell. But what I like about them is you pay as you go. So it's like you upload it and they'll say, okay, that's going to be $2. It's like you just pay the $2 and you're done. So I like that you can just kind of, you don't have to have a whole account with them. So if you don't do a lot of transcribing, this is pay as you go. So it's a really, really great site. And it is so darn accurate. Ugh, it's amazing how accurate it is. And the nice thing is that they can give you a transcript and you can clean it up. So it's nice. You can kind of go in there and clean it up. So it's like, maybe they got my name spelled with a J for Gillian instead of G for Gillian. I can go in and clean it up and then download it as a PDF or as a Word file or as a text file, whatever I want to do. So Happy Scribe, I really like it. And they have just really, really good AI in that it really gets so error-free. Like I would say they're like 90, 97, 98% error-free, as opposed to something like YouTube. YouTube is just, YouTube's doing a lot of work, but like YouTube, it's like when you ever see those closed captions, they can like totally like, kind of word is that? Like, it's like they're on another planet. But Happy Scribe, very, very accurate. It's amazing. And it's all done through automation. So it's grease lightning. So now you have your MP3, you have which is the audio, you have your MP4, which is your video file. You've uploaded it to Happy Scribe or rev.com or, just whatever tool you want to use, but I recommend Happy Scribe. And then download your transcript. Well, now you could be writing a blog post. So this would be good for your website. Or if you don't have a website, you can do an article for LinkedIn, or you could do both. You can do an article for your blog and an article for LinkedIn. Maybe you got a newsletter or something like that. So it's really great that now you have that. But you could also go in and get some sound bites out of that, because you might say, ooh, that was a really good quote. Well, you could use a tool like Canva and take that little quote, and then you could, put it on a graphic in Canva and upload that to social media. So you can do some kind of fun stuff. One thing I love to do is create slider posts for LinkedIn. So those are actually called document posts. That's a technical word, but I call them sliders because they're just like little bits of, it's a PDF. And it's like people just keep clicking and sliding and going to the next thing. So I was recently a guest on the live, and I was on with four other women. So 5 of us were on the live together. And what I did was I just kind of picked up a little quote from each one of us, like a little sound bite. It wasn't actually a quote. It was like an idea. And I made a slider and I said, here's all the different things. Here's what Gina said, and here's what Jane said, and here's what Lanier said, and here's what Zigrid said. And I put one on each screen. And at the very end, I said, hey, so why don't you go check out the LinkedIn, why don't you go check out the live? And then I put a QR code, which I made in Canva, and I put that on the screen that went back to the live. So you could do that for the podcast. You could put a link that goes to the podcast and maybe a QR code that people could like snap a picture of, and then they could go and listen to the show. So sliders are just awesome. So then you can also take the video and you could upload it. You can do this manually, but it's a lot of work. But you could upload it to a program like Opus Clip. And you don't have to have a paid account. You can upload it and create little shorts, but it's going to have a watermark. So that's the only thing. It's going to have a watermark. Is that too much to pay, to have a little watermark on it? No, you could also use Descript, but I like Opus Clip. And with Opus, you upload that video. And then what it does is you can set like, okay, I want my videos to be 60 seconds or 90 seconds, and it will just look for logical, short form little snippets, create those for you, give you a title, a description, and even a virality score. And a virality score is how much they kind of think this is going to get a lot of engagement. And you can make them square, a 1-to-1 ratio. You can make vertical clips. You can just do all sorts of stuff. You can have 16:9, which is like your traditional, video, like a YouTube size video, horizontal as opposed to portrait. And you can say whatever you want. So that's kind of cool that it does that. And it puts the captions on. So that's a cool tool. I love using Opus Clips. So that's a good one to know. Now, if you only have audio, because sometimes a podcast is audio only, if you only have audio, you're going to use that MP3 file. And what you can do is you can upload that to a program. I think it's called Headliner app is a program you can use. They have a free forever program, plan, for want of a better word. And you can upload that MP3. Sometimes you can even just tell it the name of the show and the episode, and it will like suck it in. And then you can choose like maybe, a 1 minute or 30-second clip or whatever. And it will make what's called an audiogram. So what an audiogram is it has a picture, and you tell it what picture you want. You can upload a picture. And, any kind of graphic. So maybe you have the graphic that was like on the podcast, that's kind of cool one, or a graphic of just you be creative. And then it will do the captions, and you'll see the captions going across the screen. But then it will also put the sound waves. And that's kind of cool, because if you post those kind of videos on, LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter or wherever you like to post stuff, then what people will see it. They'll see the sound waves and say, oh, something's happening here. And they'll pay attention. So I love those audiograms because you see those little sound waves, and it just gives them a snippet of what you're talking about, it because they're going to hear it. And they're also going to see the captions going across the screen as well. And then, of course, in your post, the text that you post with your audiogram, put the link to the full podcast. So it's a great way to have those kind of clips. So we've talked about blogs, we've talked about video, we've talked about the audio, we've talked about having little social snippets, those type of things. One more thing, authors, you can take those podcasts transcripts, and maybe that's content for a future book. So something to think about. If you've been on several different podcasts, you might say, on this podcast, I talked about, this angle. And on that podcast, I talked about that. And could they be separate chapters? Maybe they're 2 chapters and you've got half a book written. Who knows? But just think about how you could be using that in your next book, or maybe in your first book. Either one. It's really, really good to know. Okay. So we talked about repurposing your content. We talked about being gracious to your host and thanking them, getting the assets. One more thing I want you to think of. You want to showcase all of the different guest appearances that you have. So Spotify allows you to do what's called it's basically a playlist, an audio playlist of all the different podcasts. And you literally just go in, you set it up, and then you just say, you search on Spotify, I was on this show, I was on this show. You could rearrange it and, have all these great little things. And now you have a whole playlist of all of the different audios, Spotify, of course, of somebody could come and just kind of click through and listen and get snippets. So this is really, really good to have maybe on your LinkedIn profile. Maybe you have it in your features section of your LinkedIn. Maybe I actually have a media position on my LinkedIn profile, and that's where I put mine. So that's kind of cool to have that as well. And you could put it on your website. You can embed the player on your website under your guest appearances. So that's kind of cool, the Spotify playlist. I, for video, like to have a YouTube on my YouTube channel. I have something called guest appearances, and I have all of the different YouTubes from other people's channels. And I have them all on one playlist on my channel. So anybody can at any time go to my channel and see all the different shows that I've been a part of. So I think that's kind of cool to have that. And I love that. And then also too, I embed that on my website. So you go to my website and I have that playlist embedded on my website. You can also upload each one natively to your website. So remember, you want to stay in charge of your assets. These are wonderful assets, and podcasts are evergreen. Most of the time, those conversations, even if it's 2-3 years old, that is great content. It shows your credibility. And sometimes we forget, we just forget we've been on a show. We've said all these brilliant things. It's just awesome to have all of that information and just have access to it at any time. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I've left out. I pretty much think I've covered it all. Just recognize that once the show is over, it does not end. Just keep marketing it. And you know what? If you are listening to this and saying, "Oh, I blew it. I was on this show. I had this podcast appearance in November. And then I got sick and I never did anything with it and blah, 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 blah. I guess I kind of messed up and I missed the boat." No way. You did not miss the boat. You can still go and promote old podcast appearances. I give you permission. I give you permission. You can go and do something like, I love to put stuff in a LinkedIn article, because LinkedIn articles are gold, because they not only are shown on LinkedIn, number one, they are shown on LinkedIn, but number two, people subscribe to those. So they get that in their email inbox. So that's the only time LinkedIn pushes content outside of LinkedIn and kind of brings people back to the platform. So I love articles for that reason. But articles are also picked up by the Google gods. And now we have to serve a new master, which is the AI gods. And so AI are scanning our LinkedIn content. They are scanning our posts. They are scanning our LinkedIn articles, newsletters, etc. And so this is going to help you build your credibility and your visibility out there in the interwebs. It's just got to be said. And so if the host just kind of did, sometimes a host, everybody's different, right? I do a big deal. You come on my show, you're going to be on all the different audio channels, all the regular players, Amazon, Spotify, Amazon Music, all the others. And I also take, and even YouTube for audio as well. And then I upload my podcast appearances, the video, to YouTube. So you're also on YouTube. If that's not enough, then the next day I do a article, a feature, a teaser article. I like to make a teaser article. I used to tell people too much and then they just like, oh, I know everything now. So now I do a teaser article, meaning I tell people, this is what we talked about. This is what we talked about on the podcast. But I want to give them just wanting a little bit more. So I just give them a tease. And then I put the link to go listen to the podcast or go watch the YouTube video. So I give them a choice. Some people like video, some people like audio. I personally prefer listening to an audio because then I can do something else. I could be walking, washing the dishes, whatever. And by doing that, it's like I really highlight my guests. I really give them a spotlight on my show. But not everybody's like me. So some people might literally, all the host does is, some hosts do nothing. They just just publish the post and publish the podcast episode, and that's the end of it. And you're just like, did it even go up? I don't even know. You didn't even tell me. It's like, I've been on a show and it's like, oh, it went up a month ago. You didn't even let me know. And they were just like, well, I thought you'd know. So it's just like, I would have promoted it. But sometimes a host will do a little bit, and maybe all they'll do is a LinkedIn post, and they'll just say, oh, Gillian Whitney was on my show. Here's the link. And then they put the link. And you know what? LinkedIn doesn't like links. They don't like them. They want you to stay on the platform. So when you just drop in the Apple podcast link or the Spotify podcast link or the YouTube podcast link, guess what? LinkedIn kind of goes, meh, and they don't give it much love. And so if that's all somebody's done, people won't know much about it. So that's why I say, make sure you are marketing your own content. And it doesn't matter if you miss the boat and it was 3 months ago or 6 months ago. I'll tell you a secret. I was once a guest on somebody's podcast, and we actually did 2 episodes in one. And they told me this is the way they roll. And I'm like, okay. And so we did 1 episode, and then we took like a little break for like 2 minutes, and then we just recorded the next episode, and they were published 6 months apart. And we just made sure to not reference like, oh, it's St. Patrick's Day today. We didn't reference anything because we knew that they were going to be 6 months apart. And so that just shows you how evergreen. No one ever knew that this happened. So this just goes to show you it's never too late to promote your podcast appearances. And I have used my podcast appearances as content in my book, because I find when I'm on a podcast, I'm thinking, I'm answering, and I'm storytelling. And that's what I love to use. I'll take a story that I shared on a podcast and go, ooh, that would really be good for chapter 3 in my book, because I'm talking about this. And I literally, because I've got that transcript, I can use that story, and it's succinct and I know what I'm talking about. So there we go. I hope I have given you a lot of ideas of how to leverage your podcast. Do not let this wonderful content that to me is a gold mine, don't let it die on the vine. Do something with it, and make sure that you always stay and be a gracious guest. Okay, everybody, that's it for this week, and we'll talk with you soon. Bye, everybody.